Hello YouTube! Bit of a different video this time. These are 10 bike hacks that have helped me out over the years. Now, if you've used any of these or have more bike hack ideas, let me know in the comments below. Sharing is caring. Now let's get into it.
Garden Weed Sprayer is a tubeless tire inflator. Ever tried inflating a tubeless tire with a regular track pump? It might work if the tire has a tight enough fit onto the rim, but more often than not, it doesn't. What you want to do is pump a large enough volume of air into the tire in a short period of time. Now, removing the valve core might help, but nothing really beats a compressor. If you don't happen to have one on hand, this Garden Weed Sprayer will do the trick. Together with a Schrader depressed adapter, it will pop most tires onto the rim enough for them to seal. Now, you might need to finish off the process with a track pump, but this tubeless inflator hack will get you 95% of the way there. Due to the pressure release valve and the thick plastic, it looks and feels a lot safer than the plastic bottle wrapped and tape alternatives I've seen on the internet. In a pinch, you'd also be able to use this as a portable bike wash. Old worn out tire as a down tube protector. This one is pretty much self-explanatory. Riding rocks and shale as well as taking your bike on the lift tends to be rough on your down tube. Even though most down tubes are protected with at least a layer of thin see-through plastic, that's often not enough. Grab an old worn out tire and use it as a protector. Measure out the size you'll need and cut a piece out. The bead is usually reinforced and really hard to cut through, so just cut along it instead. When you've got the desired shape, just zip tie your new down tube protector to your bike and go shred. Nuts, washers, and bolts as a Maxell preload. Hacks are born out of necessity. In 2017, I rode the McAvalanche in Alpe d'Huez, and you can check out my race run and vlogs from the Mega in the playlist in the link above. First day riding, I managed to snap the preload on my front axle. With only a few days left until the race, I didn't have time to order a new axle, so I asked the local bike store for help. With a few washers, a nut, and a bolt, we managed to fashion a primitive preload for the Maxell. Although I was checking it in between runs, I rode a full week in Alpe d'Huez and even raced using this hack. The downside is that had I gotten a front flat, it would have taken longer to remove the Maxell and then retension it. Etched shifter and dropper post controls for more grip. We've all ridden in the wet and had our thumbs slip on the shifter or dropper post lever at some point. If you wish you had more grip on your levers, just stick a piece of grip tape to them. You can also grab a Dremel and etch out a ribbed design that will improve your grip. Just be careful not to go all the way through the metal. This will of course void your warranty on your parts, but the alternative would be missing that perfect timing on a shift or going into a super technical section with your seat up. Burp fork wiper seals using zip ties and lube. Too much stiction in your fork compromising small bump compliance? Carefully remove the coil spring around each wiper seal using a sharp plastic implement. Coat the end of a small zip tie in fork lube and slide it in between the stanchion and the wiper seal until it bottoms out. This will burp any air potentially trapped under the seal and hopefully get your fork feeling supple again. After you're done, cycle your fork a few times and you're good to go. This same hack applies to some dropper posts as well. 3D printed volume spacers. If you want to change the progressiveness of your air-sprung fork or shock, you're going to need some volume spacers. Sometimes these can be hard to get a hold of and frankly pretty expensive for a tiny bit of plastic. There are plenty online resources where people have uploaded printable 3D designs of volume spacers. So if you have access to a 3D printer, why not print your own? I've been running this 15mm spacer in my Fox Float shock for a year now, and I feel that it's improved rear wheel traction. Just make sure you sand down any of the rough edges of the plastic before inserting it into your fork or shock. Sanded down socket for removing your fork air cap. So you want to add or remove volume spacers in your fork. Quite a few forks on the market have an air cap that can be opened with a socket. If you're not careful and you use any old socket, you risk damaging the air cap. You can of course buy a bike-specific socket if you're in the business of removing air caps often, or you can get any regular socket that fits and sand it down so that it has a flat edge. Just make sure that you get all the air out of your fork before you attempt any kind of service on it. DIY bearing pullers. Full suspension frames have linkage bearings that need to be changed from time to time, especially if you ride in the wet or insist on carelessly pressure washing your bike. Dirt can get in through the seals and seize your bearings. This is why you need a bearing puller kit. The ones that are MTB specific tend to be pretty pricey, so it does make sense to try a DIY solution. An expander bolt, usually used for concrete, a few washers, a nut, and an appropriately sized socket can be used to pull or press bearings. Here's how I've done it on my specialized enduro frame. Just make sure that you're always pulling or pushing the bearing perpendicularly to where it's meant to be sitting. Different frames have different bearing configurations and sizes, so this solution might not always work. I'll probably make a separate video on this topic at some point. Plastic frame protection. This one's also quite finicky, but who wouldn't put a little bit of work in just to see their shiny new frame look new for longer? Most frames come with a chainstay protector, but there are other exposed areas on the bike. Knee pads will rub on the top tube, flat pedal shoes might mark the chainstays and seat stays, and the down tube is pretty exposed to rock strikes. You can buy frame-specific protection kits, or you could just use heli tape or any other tough, sticky tape to cover your frame. This roll cost around €10 and has so far covered 2 bikes. There's a bit of work involved in applying this tape. I cleaned the frame with a mild degreaser, sprayed it with water, and then carefully applied a piece of film that I cut to fit that particular area of the bike. Then I carefully pushed the water out from under the film while heating it with a hairdryer to make it stick better. Zip ties stuffed in your crankset axle. Not sure if you can really call this a hack, but it's a trick many enduro racers use, and it has already gotten me out of a pinch a few times. Zip ties are like the multi-tool of the bike world. Snap your brake lever in a crash, zip tie to the bars. Snap your gear cable? Use a zip tie to set your rear mech to the desired gear and clamp it in place. The uses are endless, and if you're running a crankset with a hollow axle, you can stash a few zip ties in there and always have them with you.
Hopefully, these hacks will get you out of a pickle, or maybe just help you be a better home bike mechanic. Now, if you found any of them useful, share this video, hit the like button, and subscribe for more. I'll catch you next time.